Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush for the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. It's where I hang out. It's what I do. Doing more research, continuing the journey here, taking the first top layer off of things to help you get into the right frame to do some drafting later on this year. I probably won't get serious till about August, probably mid-August even. Okay, part one of this series was running backs. Part one, this is part two. I've already done the quarterbacks. I have 3 of those lessons. So this is my second lesson in RBs. So go and check out the previous lessons if you wanna. For fun, if nothing else. My AI figure here, while the Warriors fighting over fantasy football or something, I don't know. AI is definitely interesting. So I had left off discussing draft rounds and metrics associated with draft rounds. This is looking at the years stacked from 2015 to 23, looking at rounds 1 to 14, looking at the green or the top 30%, and I guess the red are towards the bottom there. So you can see pretty high-low what's going on. I did mention I thought round 9 was intriguing. If you look vertically down, you can see that things were a little bit popping in 4 of the years, and 2016 it was like moved on to even to round 10, but for the most part around 9. Okay, and it gets lean after that. At that point, people talk about they're going to find those RB1s out here. This data says probably not. If you get you an RB2 out of this mess, you're in business after round 10 here. And I try to line up the box and whiskers. Looking at the different rounds, you can pretty much see the outcomes here. And this is round 9. I know it gets a little bigger and smaller because I had to break it into 2 to make this figure here. But each one is a round. So it's round 1, 2, 3, 4. So clearly a tier, clearly a tier. And this is the one that's really interesting. If you look at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, only 6 and 9 have returned things over, the last, 8, 9 years, something like that. But 5, 6, and 7, 5, 7, and 8 have been weak sauce. And then here's your 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the production here is lean at this point. So it seems to me in the rounds that you might be able to cherry pick some interesting players. So if you grab one early, maybe this is where you're grabbing your second and third one out in this range. Don't know. Could be. It probably seems about what I do. I do like my wide receivers here and quarterbacks and tight ends. If we look at the data I showed in this slide, and I plotted it and applied trend lines, you can see for the most part that early RBs are who you think they are. And the question becomes, in this decline, looks like it hits the bottom here. This was, what year was this blue? 2018. Then it perked up to round 7 and 8, then declined again. The pink is 2021, early, declined by round 5, perked up 7 or 8, and then declined. And then last year, you had bottomed out round 5, 6, 7, 8, and it perked up at round 9. And the best year to play RB, late RB drafting was 2015. And you see, it's almost a straight line, folks. So, if all the trends were straight lines, then everybody would be doing 0 RB. You don't see that. So you're saying, well, how do you know when this line becomes straight? How do you know? Isn't that the trick? Injuries and other factors, 2015, you kind of had to draft into that. And I did make a boatload of money that year going. But the later years, looks like the early RBs are putting money in your pocket, folks. There is a decline, but then there's this secondary peak somewhere between, depends on the year, 7, 8, 9. And like I said, overall, there's been some nice picks at 9. Beating that trend line here. So just, I definitely want to do my research here. So I guess if you had to say, where's the danger? I think the danger is rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? It's clear that there's some sadness. Look at some of the bottom end of these. If we track the bottom, worst here is bad. So it looks like it gets really interesting about round 6, 7, 8, and 9 as far as what you get. So anyway, this interesting trends. So there's nothing in the most of the trends. I could have done all of them, but I think pretty much 2015, maybe 16, were closer to the flat line and everybody else hadn't been. So the idea of the 0 RB percolated about the time it worked. And I'm not sure we're seeing a straight line again for a while. I don't know if I could predict that. In other words, there's nothing in 2023 with this red trend line that would say 2024 is going to be like 2015. Nothing that I know is predictive. Okay. I understand you can hope, but it's a gamble. There's no stats that would support that other than just your feelings. Okay. So, I took a look a little closer, blew up the figures, rounds 1, 2, and 3. And it is clear the show in the last 18, 19 forward has been early RBs, and you're even collecting some of these guys in the second round. Okay. So 2015, it was sad. I mean, there was some okay, but 2015, 16. 2017, round 2 was the better play. 2020, round 2, COVID year wasn't a better play, it was round 1. So we had round 2 was the best in 2021. So we had 2 years where round 1 sucked, 2 years where round 2 was the choice. And the rest of the time, I mean, 19 was almost the same, but let's call it the rest of the time, 4 of these 9 was all about the first year, maybe even 5 of these 9. So given the variation in early RB drafting, I don't know how you can predict this outlier here, 2015. I don't think you can. Here's 4, 5, 6. Again, you're starting to see that secondary peak around 6. So this year, I definitely want to see who's falling in round 6. See if I can't cherry pick some of these. So I'm using So you say, well, how are you using this data? I know last year, round 5, some of the best it's ever been. Look at that. And round 4 sucked. That's interesting. So, but definitely round 6 has been good for you. Here's round 7. It's been kind of sad. Round 8, really sad. And in round 9, we got some oomph back, that secondary pick. Round 10, we had some pick as well. And 2015-16, where a low or 0 RB worked, imagine that round 10 would give you goodness. Yeah, look at even 16. You were getting goodness to the 12th round. So things are not the same. Variation occurs. The data that I'm looking the last 9 years suggests that early RBs are bringing home what you think. But round 6, round 9 might be worth trolling for a little bit. At least I think so. Let's see what else I do here. Sometimes I forget what I'm doing. Okay, this is, so I colorized the metrics, top 30% of the population in the last 9 years in green, bottom 30% in red, and the rest is the mid 40%. So you call top, mid, bottom, right? So if you slice it like that, okay, because some of these numbers get all squished together and people get a little confused. If you go too deep on some things in data analysis, you can lose the big picture. That's why I like top down. So what I did instead, and this great figure here, I love this, I counted the number of tops, bottoms, and mids for the first 10 rounds of drafting in each of these years, and just did scorecards, how many were in the top, the mid, the bottom here. And then, and so we can see 2023 and 2019 were the best, 2022 second best. We got 6, 6, 5. 2020, 15, 16 were some of the best actually. And so what I did was I then added then I decided to subtract the top and the mid together and plot that result. What does that do? That tells me the skew towards the top if you subtract. So 2015, 4 minus 4 is 0. 2016, 4 minus 5 is a minus 1. Okay, 2017, minus 2, minus 1. So 15, 16, 17, 18, pretty much there was a little bit of skew to the mid. 2019, heavily skewed to the top. 22, 23 to the top. Look at 2021, heavily skewed to the mid. So these numbers are all not the same. And there's a lot of skewing. But really, if you think of plus 1 or 2, really not a lot here. 2020 was 0. So we've had some really spectacular years that occurred 19, 22, 23. So we're coming off 2 years that you could be tricked by what happened to you. Imagine having 2000, okay, looking at this data, 15, 16, 17, 18, you're thinking, well, I guess we're going to have another ho-hum year. Look at 2019. Huh? What happened here? And you're thinking, well, 2022's got to be good. Nope. 2021, it's got to be around zero. Nope. 2022, man, what am I going to get? I hope it's not too bad. It comes back and comes back again. So the last 2 years, we've seen a skew on those early round tops in the top 10 that we've seen. So I'm telling you, last 2 years, if you look, completely different from mainly the most, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've had 3 interesting years, the other 6 years. I mean, you could say it like that. That concerns me because you never quite know what you're getting. But for you to believe that and not understand the variation the preceding years, that means you're just sticking your head out and hopes, the whack-a-mole hammer doesn't hit you. So it's best to be concerned and worried versus just kind of ho-hum. 2023 was a great year. 2024 is going to be great too. La, 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 la. Here you are in 2019. 2019 was great. 2020 is going to be great. Well, 2021 can't be worse than 2020. Well, I guess 2022 is probably going to suck. No. Wow, I wonder what 2023 is going to do. Okay, so the good news, if you were thinking 2022 is going to tell you 2023 is going to be great, you won that year. So you won that year. Good for you. Some more data. Yearly distributions, round 1 to 10 versus end of the season result. And by the way, these numbers are end of the season. So we have preseason, end of the season. People get all bamboozled by looking just at the end of the season. You've got to consider in your drafts, how good is ADP? This is a way to take a nibble at that question. We're just nibbling here at this point. So again, top 30, mid 40, bottom 30%. So I did this data here, okay, in boxes. Green is top, blue is mid, red is bottom. So if you look at the red trend line, I don't know what the bottom. Oh, that's me doing it. I forgot to erase that trend line. Sorry. Okay, now, so the trend for being in the bottom, 2023 was the best year we've had. Look at that. Okay. Well, when I say best year, 2021 was pretty dang good. But the trend going down. What about the top? Pretty sad. 19 starting to pick it up. 20 starting to kind of 2021. And then, boy, last year. So we kind of dipped and going to the rise. The mid guys kind of flat and went down. So what's 2024? So if you extrapolate, so the thing with this data, if you extrapolate, 2024 you're going to predict it's going to look like 2023. And that is not necessarily the case, but that's what the data, if you look at green, much better than blue, much better than red. That's what we've had 2 years in a row. Have we had another green, blue, red incline like that? We haven't, okay, except for 2019. So the best years have been 19, 20, 22, just like this metric would tell you. Just another way to look at that metric. Okay. So I think we will stop here with this lesson. Probably listen to it again. But you cannot approach any year thinking last year was the pattern. Might be, but looking at the variation, it may not. Okay, this is Dr. Bush for the process part 2 RBs. We're coming with part 3. And we may have to do part 4 here. Anyway, we're coming back. More stuff. Science of fantasy football. Fun stuff. Come on back.